So you described leaving sort of the cardiac floor and you went to the neonatal floor, right? And so you're
Postpartum,
there,
yes.
you're postpartum. What would be the normal rate? I mean, obviously we can talk big rates and worldwide, but just inside of your hospital, in your experience prior to the COVID vaccine and this timing and this change you're seeing, what would be the average rate of, stillborn fetal demise on your floor?
I'm glad you asked. When I started working there in November 2020, there used to be one or two every 2 or 3 months,
Okay,
maybe.
maybe. All
And
right.
then since March of 2021, April 2021, I started to notice more and more that when I would check the labor and delivery board, there were one or two each week or so.
Wow.
So it's
Okay.
pretty big increase.
All right. So, folks out there, there's one thing, and these are obviously anecdotal stories. It's all we have because the proper science hasn't been done. CDC and FDA, I am in total agreement with Dr. Thorpe, is corrupt. They've been promoting a vaccine that has been properly tested on our babies, on our children, and maybe most egregiously on the developing fetuses inside of pregnant women. But again, we could just say, well, this is just opinion, or this is just Michelle's opinion. Today, she has bravely released to us an internal document, an email from that hospital system that was sent out to those working there. I'm going to share this with you now. I want to, first of all, say that this is not her opinion now any longer. This is the perspective of the hospital itself. I'm not sure what they're going to say about us showing this, but I want to say that Michelle, we had a very deep conversations beforehand, and she feels it's necessary for people to see this. So we're going to bring up this email right now. This went out to the staff. Good evening, everyone. Well, it seems as though the increase of demise patients that we are seeing is going to continue. There were 22 demises in August, which ties the record number of demises in July 2021. And so far in September, there have been 7, and it's only the 8th day of the month. Now these statistics include redacted, so you haven't seen all of them. And some have also gone through the EDs and ORs, but there have still been so many in our department. It's a lot of work for you as the bedside RNs, and it's also a lot of work for me. Demises have taken a lot of my time away from the other groups of patients that I serve, so I hope this trend doesn't continue indefinitely. Know of a few more that are scheduled to deliver in the week ahead, so unfortunately the process is going to be very familiar with all of you. Once again, I do so appreciate the time and attention that you give to the patients. When I follow up with them, they remember your names and the way you help them get through a very difficult time. That is the first time I have seen that email. We discussed beforehand. We're very busy putting the show together. I have to say, I feel like the oxygen has just been sucked out of my lungs. To read that from someone that is as objective, I guess, as you could get, working for the system itself, it now corroborates what you're seeing with your own eyes. And for anyone that was having a question anywhere around the world now, this is a shocking, shocking email. Were you shocked when you received it? How much,
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't work for the first half of my shift. I was so distraught. I just kept thinking, why is nobody talking about this? The media should be outraged. We're talking about babies. Babies are given to us by God. They're here to bring us love and joy. And if somebody is taking that away from us, that's evil.
Dr. Thorpe, I know that you're aware of this email. I don't know that I've ever read anything as shocking as what I just read there.
Well, Del, you're absolutely right. I was just praying that you would stop and not read anymore, because the rest of the email, which I think is about twice as long as what you read, is really, really upsetting. It starts talking about stuff that I can't even talk about, that is not appropriate to talk about.
Okay, and we're going to leave that for courtrooms and other things to decide. I think we get the point here. And so let me ask you this, Michelle, in your practice, do you see doctors recommending, are there doctors recommending this vaccine, or do you think these pregnant women are just getting it on their own because of what they're seeing in the media?
I do believe that they are being coerced into taking this vaccine. One doctor would write in his notes when he'd take care of a mother who just delivered, he would put patient received COVID vaccine. Or if they didn't, he would say patient did not receive vaccine. And then he would quote what they'd say. And if they didn't receive it, he would quote how he provided education on why it should be taken, why it's important. And so I do believe that he is coercing them when they come to see him in his office before they deliver. And so I think 90% of these mothers are getting the vaccine while they're pregnant.
Dr. Thorpe, do we forgive? I mean, I really grapple with this. When I started this conversation at the beginning of COVID, I was speaking all over the country, and I would say, look, doctors don't know better. They're being lied to by the CDC. They're being lied to by the FDA. That's basically the clergy of this medical religion or orthodoxy. But man, at a certain point, I did a story on remdesivir where, these wives of young husbands that are lost in hospitals are watching their husbands being put on dialysis because of kidney failure. And then when they ask how many of the patients on kidney failure, dialysis right now got the COVID vaccine, and said all of them. And you start asking yourself, how is it these doctors are not seeing COVID doesn't cause kidney failure? So obviously this treatment you're using must be doing it. Why is it not registering in doctors' minds? In this case, this doctor is promoting a product, and probably many of them are because they're being told to do it. How is it they're not seeing this rise in demise of infants and fetuses?
I talk about 4 levels, hierarchical levels of cognitive dissonance, going from the individual physician to the individual's family, number 2, number 3 to the individual's friends, and number 4 finally to the doctor's patients. And every single time you take the shot, the doctor takes the first one, crossed a line, and can't ever take it back. It's done. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and then they will lose their paycheck and get fired. So their paycheck is really a bribe, and I think that's something that has been promoted by Department of Health and Human Services through that CCC. All of these medical boards, the medical boards are all fraudulent. They're all contaminated. The American College of OBGYN, the American Board of Obstetrics and Gynecology, the Society for Maternal Fetal Medicine, all of which I've been formally associated with one way or the other, and they're more focused on changing the language to politically correct language than they really care about my patients. They don't really care about patients dying and injured from the job. They care about their massive amount of profit that they get from pushing the vaccine. So I don't think that, we had a discussion on this earlier. What was the motive of that email being released? What is the motive of the doctor that's pushing it? I think it's so difficult to know somebody's heart and judge them. I just can't do that. I want to stick with the facts that I know to be true, and I know for sure, beyond a shadow of a doubt, and I have data and proof that this vaccine is killing and injuring my patients, and it needs to stop now.
Michelle, one of the issues, obviously we're talking about how the fetus is affected. It's just reasonable to imagine you have a product that is an mRNA or a DNA technology, messing the reproductive system. But one of the things that we've heard a lot about in non-pregnant people is, blood clots and strokes and heart attacks and things like that. We're talking about babies. Have you seen any effect on the mothers themselves or any issues that went on when delivering that you think are outside the ordinary that of what you're used to witnessing?
Yes, I have a friend who's a crisis nurse at the same hospital that I work at, and she got the booster dose and didn't know she was pregnant. And then a week later, she started having blood clots. She had to have some surgeries done, and she delivered her baby early. And she admitted to everybody, she said, "This is from the shot. If I didn't get that shot, my baby would and I would have been fine." She is okay, thank God, and her baby's doing okay. He's a month old, but it's scary because they both almost lost their lives, and she knows that it happened right after getting that shot. So she doesn't feel comfortable speaking forward right now because she's taking care of her newborn baby, and I understand that. But that's just one. And then I've been taking care of moms who they now have high blood pressure issues, and so they have to be on critical medications for that. There have been moms that have had blood clots. One mother had a stroke while she delivered her baby, and she passed away. That was around Christmas last year. So we've been seeing all kinds of unusual stuff. And then same with the babies. They've had to do a lot of echocardiograms, which is where they check the baby's heart with an ultrasound because the babies are having arrhythmias. And then they're checking other things like spinal issues. And then there's no way to know what's going to happen to these babies as they grow up. This is only while they're newborns that